The story begins inside a grand hall where nobles and royals are gathering. An ordinary sorcerer meets a noble one. The people around them have started to laugh. The noble prince gave a parting gift for the ordinary sorcerer to take to the underworld. He asked the commoner to show him one of the commoner's magic attacks. The ordinary sorcerer gave his best to unleash a magic attack, and what he made was a small fireball. He unleashed the fireball to hit the noble prince who was standing in front of him. The fireball travels towards the prince. It's slow, weak, and doesn't have enough magic. As it hit the prince, it didn't burn or push the prince away. It looks like nothing happened. The commoner was so shocked that even he gave his all. His magic attack was weak. The prince just brushed his shoulder where the fireball from the commoner landed, and he explained that the three most important things for a magician are pedigree, talent, and effort. He added that it's William Bolt, the father of all mages, who said that. He insists to the commoner not to misunderstand that effort is not the only prerequisite, and to put it in another way, no matter how hard one works, if they were not born to the right parents or with a good amount of talent, and cursed like the commoner, then magic will never be a skill of a commoner. A huge, powerful fireball was unleashed by the noble prince and hit the poor commoner, who badly wanted to know about magic. The fireball lights up his face and brightens everything around as it rushes towards the commoner. The noble prince mercifully attacked the commoner with a powerful fireball that burned the poor boy alive. It's so powerful that it created a whirling tornado of fire that burns everything inside. However, the commoner didn't get mad and found it brilliant as he was attacked by the prince. He just realized that it is the magic of a noble blessed in everything. Even though it hurt him, he still found it beautiful and brilliant. The commoner wishes that if he could have a wish, he would study even more to master magic. After saying the word magic, everything turned black for the commoner, and everything changed. As he started to open his eyes again, lights were coming on, and things were starting to get bright. He woke up and saw a lot of maids, and they were all checking him. They are all smiling and taking care of him. He has a lot of questions. He doesn't know who he is or where he is. No one can understand him, even though he is asking in his mind that the maids should back off. He thinks that he will scare the maid with a small fireball. He thinks that he doesn't have much magic power at that time, but he will still use magic, and suddenly realizes that his hand is tiny. He just released the fireball from his hand, and luckily, it didn't hit the maid in front of him, who is now shocked and scared while trying to make him smile. He just got reincarnated into a baby, not just a baby, but a prince from a noble family. He became the seventh prince, and everyone panicked at the fireball he unleashed. The fireball just destroyed the ceiling of the castle and caused a huge explosion. There, the villagers think that it's an extra fireworks for the saloon having the seventh prince named Lloyd. The celebration of the kingdom continues as Lloyd was born that day. The time passed so quickly, and 10 years have already passed since the day the commoner was reincarnated as the seventh prince. He was called the seventh Prince Lloyd of the Saloon Kingdom. Inside the castle, Prince Lloyd is rushing and walking very fast to pass the two magicians in front of him. However, he had already caught the attention of the two, and he was called by the two magicians. Lloyd simply hushed the two and apologized before explaining that they should not tell the maids or servants that he was there, since he would be doing something. He immediately passed the two magicians, who had just agreed with him to keep the secret, seeing him in the hallway and going somewhere. The two magicians think that Prince Lloyd and the royal bloods must at least try hunting. However, it's too late for them to realize that Lloyd got away again and just escaped from the maids and servants to roam around. The little prince continues to walk away and leaves the two hanging and thinking about where he is going. One of the magicians think that Lloyd, as the seventh prince, is so much younger than the other princes that Lloyd won't even be considered as heir to the throne, and there's no point in giving him special treatment. However, the other insists that Lloyd understood their language right out of the womb, then started rifling through spell books instead of picture books. He also insisted that the way Prince Lloyd rejected his mother's breast milk is the mirror image of a gentleman. The magician also added that the most important thing is that he believes that Prince Lloyd may be the reincarnation of the famous William Bolt, the father of magic. Because of that, the other magician who doubts the skill of Lloyd insists that it's a ridiculous thing since they didn't know that their Prince Lloyd was actually reincarnated. Lloyd wasn't William Bolt, though. He was just a normal citizen of Saloon, a commoner. He really doesn't know why he was reincarnated as the seventh prince or why he remembers his previous life, but he is lucky to have another chance to live. Because of that, every day he tries to sneak away from the maids and servants so he can roam around and learn new magic. However, Lloyd still feels the same way as before he died and got reincarnated. He doesn't care about fame or fortune and just wants to live a normal life. The only thing that he cares about is 1, learning, and 2, mastering how to cast more spells. He always studies inside the castle's huge library, where all the spell books are kept. Lloyd is only interested in magic and spells alone. He doesn't care about anything that doesn't have any connection with magic and spells. Daily, Lloyd reads books and studies different kinds of magic. He thinks that the castle's library is brilliant as ever since it contains all the books about magic, and it's no slouch even compared to Saloon's magic school, where he studied before being reincarnated. However, one of the maids is Silpha, Lloyd's personal maid and responsible for taking care of him and teaching him swordsmanship. She always looks for Lloyd, who always sneaks and gets to the library, and she always finds Lloyd reading. Silpha grabbed the book that Lloyd was reading and asked him to come with her outside. In a previous life, he wasn't very athletic or had any skills like swordsmanship. He and Silpha started practicing outside the garden. Lloyd insists that since he will not be considered as heir, he doesn't think that there's any point in having sword practice in the first place. Silpha replied that succession is not everything, because those of royalty should learn swordsmanship, and she has been Lloyd's instructor for 3 years because it is her purpose in life. Because of that, Lloyd started to use float magic to make himself float like he was flying. He thinks that if he doesn't take the practice seriously, Silpha will keep him there all day. The two started the training. Lloyd started to attack and match the speed of Silpha. They exchanged blows, and their swords clashed with each other. Silpha is an extremely strong swordswoman, and she kept on teaching Lloyd every day. She just noticed that every day, Lloyd gets stronger and stronger since the little prince is catching up to her speed and attack. The little prince kept on dodging and clashing with Silpha. In Lloyd's mind, he thinks that Silpha will actually think that he is getting stronger, even though Silpha has been going easy on him. He knows that every day, Silpha holds back a little less because Silpha is stronger than the others. The little Prince Lloyd had been using control magic on himself to mirror Silpha's movements, and it's like Silpha's fighting a copy of herself that looks like his personal maid is training herself every day to get stronger. In other words, Lloyd is not really getting so good at swordsmanship, and he is just cheating using magic because he wants to go back to reading as soon as possible. Silpha kept on attacking and measuring how good Lloyd is, who is just using control magic to replicate Silpha's movement and skill. She pushes her wooden sword towards Lloyd, making the prince step back. Because of the differences in their strength, their reach, and even their height, even if Lloyd can copy Silpha's movements exactly, the differences in their body types always get in the way of winning. So that day, he experimented to correct the error, and he decided that he would use magic to cheat even more. Lloyd badly wants to read books again, and he needs to match the speed, skill, and power of Silpha to end their training that day. Lloyd started using 3 different magic: life growth magic that increases the length of his wooden sword, float magic that makes him float to match his height with Silpha, and body strengthening magic that gains more strength for his weak body. The 3 magic he uses help him to match Silpha's movement, strength, speed, and skills. He kept exchanging blows, and his swords continued to clash with Silpha's sword. It looks like Lloyd already matches Silpha, and they are taking the same action. Lloyd and Silpha throw their wooden sword towards each other. Their swords clashed and made an explosion as they hit each other's swords. Lloyd also uses the control magic to mirror and copy Silpha's movement and action so he can match the swordsmanship skill of the lady. As their wooden sword came back to them after the explosion, Lloyd just realized that he had already corrected the error he had made in fighting Silpha, who is skillful. In his mind, dealing with both the power and distance to the opponent, it's like Silpha is fighting a complete mirror image of herself. However, he just questioned himself on what he would do if the enemy in the mirror suddenly made a different move. Lloyd uses Trace Cancel and starts to step back to stop from mirroring the movement of Silpha and tries another attack. After he dodges, he lands and gains enough power to rush towards Silpha and make a new, powerful attack different from Silpha's movement. He burst towards Silpha and swung his sword to land a powerful attack. In his mind, he apologized to the lady and insisted that he just wanted to hurry up and read books again. However, he was wrong. Silpha just defended herself and immediately deflected his attack using her sword. Lloyd was so surprised by what had just happened. Because of that, Silpha just realized that Lloyd is cheating with magic, so Lloyd turned pale, and he knows that it's the end for him. Silpha turns her sword to make Lloyd's sword twist together with the little prince. In just a blink, Lloyd is spinning in the air together with his wooden sword. The little prince immediately let go of his sword and dashed away from Silpha to distance himself and dodge any attack. He just left his wooden sword spinning behind Silpha. Lloyd's personal maid, Silpha, catches the wooden sword and insists that she would never mistake the distance the little prince was taking from her in combat. She also observed that the prince makes the sword longer with the life growth magic because it's longer than her sword. Lloyd is just floating and listening to Silpha, so his personal maid just added that to make up for Lloyd's short stature, the little prince uses a float magic too, just to match her height and reach. Silpha just turns red and smiles, thinking how cute and talented the little prince is. She added that the prince activates 2 magics at once, and that's hard even for the palace mages. She insists that it's okay since Lloyd can grow at his own pace, and she won't let Lloyd get away. She hugged the little prince to express how happy she was with the improvement of the prince. However, in Lloyd's mind, he realized that Silpha didn't detect the movement tracing or body reinforcement magics, so he would keep quiet about the fact that he was really using 4 magics at once and not 2 only. Later that night, Lloyd turned red while yelling. He insisted that he can take a bath by himself. The maids insist that it's no good because if Lloyd is left alone, the little prince will stop bathing altogether and end up becoming a bookworm. Lloyd is now taking a bath together with the maids inside the maid dormitory's bathing hall. He questioned the maid about how he ended up in that situation, if he just wanted to explore more magic tomes. He kept fighting to take a bath alone. However, Lloyd was hugged and locked in Silpha's arms and limbs to prevent him from getting away while they were taking a bath. The other maid insists that the bad boys who don't do what they were told will be eaten by the Magian of the Forbidden Book. She explained that long ago, it almost destroyed the country of Saloum entirely, and after the sacrifice of many mages, the Magian was finally sealed in a book called the Grimoire. Silpha added that she recalls that the book was sealed in the prohibited books section below the castle. She insists that it's just stupid because it's just a fairy tale, and even if there's really a Magian sealed in a book below the castle, there's nothing to be scared of. Everyone looked at Prince Lloyd after what Silpha said, and the maids checked on the reaction of the little prince, who just bowed his head. The maids find the 7th prince of Saloum cute, thinking that he was scared of the big, bad Magian sealed in the Forbidden Book. They started to argue and fight each other over where the little prince should sleep that night. Silpha fights for it. She insisted that she is the teacher of the little prince, so she should take on that. The maids fight over who will sleep together with the little prince, who they think is scared of the story about the Magian. One of the maids suggested that they should compromise and have the little prince stay in the maids' dorm. While the maids are arguing, Lloyd takes that chance to sneak away and leave the bathing hall. The little prince is so excited about the prohibited book that he hears instead of getting scared of it. That night, most of the servants, maids, and others are sleeping. No people are roaming around the castle, and it's so quiet, guards are only awake at that time. The entrance to the basement of the castle was guarded by 2 guards, and something just passed them. The other guard yawns, so the other insists that they should not let their guard down. The presence of someone who has just passed the 2 guards with invisible eyes that cannot be seen, and normal people can't sense it. It's the prince. He thinks that beyond that point there are books that record magic powerful enough to shake the foundation of the country, and there's even a Magian sealed down in the basement. Lloyd feels sorry for the guard because he doubts that there's any thief who could get through with the level of security the guards have. He just uses wind-type magic, Recluse, which helps him easily pass through the guards. As he reached the basement, he started to walk towards a huge door and thought that even if he made it to the sealed library, on the door of the basement, there was also a seal. It's the ultimate seal made by 10 mages' powers combined, so it's hard to enter and infiltrate. However, the 7th Prince Lloyd is so powerful that he easily breaks the seal in just a snap. He enters the Saloum Castle's sealed underground library without breaking a sweat. He was so excited to think that he had lived in the Saloum Castle for 10 years already, but there was such an exciting place below them, which was the underground library that contained different sealed and forbidden spell books. Lloyd started to roam around the library and check each and every book that he found interesting. He happily read the books and thinks that it's brilliant that he will check through all of the books before quickly reapplying the seal outside the library. Suddenly, one of the books started to glow, and out of nowhere it flew up in the air. It opens even when no one is trying to touch it. A black creature came out of it, and it was enveloped with a seal. The monster tries to attack Lloyd, who is just reading a spell book. Lloyd noticed the creature, and it caught his attention, so he stopped reading to listen to the creature complimenting him on destroying the seal on the door of the underground library. The creature added that Lloyd is an incredible brat for destroying the seal, and it introduced itself. The monster's name is Grimoire, and then he asked the name of the little prince. Lloyd introduced himself and realized that the creature in front of him was Grimoire, the Mage in the prohibited book. The Mage happily replied that Lloyd was correct, and he was inside the prohibited book. He asked Lloyd to break his seal so he could go out of the book. Grimoire added that Lloyd should not fret because one day his seal shall break, and it's already deteriorated. He insists that sooner or later the seal shall break, and in return he will give as much gold as Lloyd wishes, but the little prince didn't care about gold. Lloyd, as the seventh prince, decided that he would redo the seal himself because he couldn't just unleash a Mage who might threaten the country that he is using as a base for magic research. Grimoire panicked and got disappointed that the boy didn't care about fortune. Because of that, Grimoire insisted that he only had a grudge against the ones who sealed him hundreds of years ago, and he had nothing against the people in the Saloon Kingdom. However, Lloyd didn't believe it and started to read the book again before putting the seal back. Grimoire uses his last straw. He insists that he will teach Lloyd some ancient magic, some magic from hundreds of years ago, which was lost. The Mage tries to bribe Lloyd with magic, even though he didn't think that the little prince would care about it. However, Lloyd's face lit up, and he got excited about what the Mage said about ancient magic. Grimoire didn't expect that, but he thinks that it might actually work. The little prince happily asked the Mage to teach him about the ancient magic, so Grimoire insisted that he would indeed teach the little prince because, as he looked at the prince, Lloyd was blessed with a talent for magic. Lloyd just smiled and said that the Mage is correct, even though he just remembered what the nobles did to him before he got reincarnated. The noble mocked him before and said that an amateur like him is unblessed by blood and talent, so he will never be smiled upon by magic, but everything is different when he got reincarnated. Lloyd thinks that if magical disposition can be said to be made up of blood and talent, then his body is surely blessed more than a commoner like him before. The little prince started to help the Mage and created a key to remove the seal. Grimoire was so happy seeing that the prince was helping him without thinking that he would betray the prince. Lloyd broke the seal of the Mage using his magic spell that breaks any seal by just using a magical key. As the seal breaks, the Mage and Grimoire free themselves from a forbidden book and laugh while asking if the little prince is serious about breaking the seal for him. The seal vanished, and the true form of the creature was shown. It's a demon that has powerful magic. Lloyd started to ask Grimoire to teach him the ancient magic, and the little prince is waiting for the Mage. Grimoire laughed and asked if the little prince was serious about the ancient magic. The Mage started to unleash a powerful magical attack that destroyed the ground and hit the little prince. It's not an ancient magic to teach. He just wanted to kill Lloyd. He uses the black laser cannon, and he thinks that he tricked the little prince already. Thinking that Lloyd is dead, the Mage started to plan what he should do next since he already has the freedom, and the seal was broken. However, he was wrong. Lloyd is still alive and just uses a barrier magic that is stronger than the attack of the magic, giving the little prince no damage or scratches. Grimoire was surprised and couldn't believe that the little prince used a strange incantation. He admired the magic of Lloyd, thinking about how the construction, forming, and even the activation method are all unique. The little seventh prince, called Grimoire, is waiting to learn the ancient magic that the Magen is saying. Lloyd asked if the Magen, Grimoire, could show him a little more of the ancient magic that used to attack him. The demon got pissed and started to unleash continuous attacks towards Lloyd, who was just using the same barrier from earlier. The attack of Grimoire didn't go through the barrier and affect or damage it, so he continued firing, thinking that it would soon hit the little prince. In the mind of Grimoire, he's trying to analyze the hard barrier that Lloyd is using because he can't even land a damage on the prince, who didn't even flinch at his black laser cannon. On the other hand, Lloyd thinks that the attack of the Magen, which was called an ancient magic, just seems to be a simple magic wave for him. Lloyd started to get curious and wanted to know how the magic felt on his own body. He wants to touch and feel the attack of the Magen, even if he might die again because of that. The little prince put his finger outside the barrier he had and got some of the magic that was thrown to him. The dark magic is whirling around his finger and causing some damage to his finger, even though he put his finger back inside the barrier. The Magen was shocked by what the little prince did. Lloyd is very interested in magic, so he will do everything to learn, feel, and experience it. He analyzes how the magic of the Magen was made and feels the pain in his finger, but still finds it beautiful. After his experience, he blew away the magic, and it immediately vanished like it was just a breeze, leaving his finger injured. While his finger is covered in blood, he starts licking it, feeling the pain, then asks Grimoire to do another magic attack. The Magen was pissed because it looked like the little prince, who is a human, was making fun of his magic and using it as an experiment. His eyes sharpen, and he grins his teeth due to madness. Grimoire started to transform, and his head was split into two, creating two heads. He started chanting some spells using his mouth from his two heads. As Lloyd saw it, he recognized that the Magen was using a double incantation. He was amazed by how it was performed and used. As the double incantation was performed, two powerful dark magic balls started to create. Grimoire twisted it to become like a whirling tornado of dark magic. As he finished the incantation and combined all the dark energy, he struck it down towards Lloyd. The attack was called the Spiral Black Laser Cannon, and it's so powerful that it immediately darkens the whole place because of its dark magic. The attack struck directly towards the barrier of Lloyd and didn't pierce or scratch the barrier while Lloyd was inside. The little prince found it interesting and saw how powerful the dark ancient magic is, but it really can't pass through his barrier. In his mind, he thinks that the prerequisite for the incantation is a completely parallel curse, and it's impossible for him. He realized that a uniquely devil magic is only possible by using two mouths simultaneously, like what Grimoire did. He added that weaving together two spells and fusing them into one spell is what double incantation did. So the details were basically like an advanced version of the earlier black laser, something that the Magen used. The attack of Grimoire is very powerful, but it slowly disappears, and the barrier of Lloyd is still intact, with no damage or even a scratch. Grimoire can't believe how sturdy Lloyd's barrier of Lloyd is. He didn't inflict any damage or move the barrier a little, even though he used a powerful attack. Lloyd is still waiting for the Magen to do more magical attacks, but Grimoire already used one of the most powerful attack he knows. The Mage and Grimoire immediately turn away to escape as he realized that he couldn't defeat the little prince in front of him. Lloyd immediately notices what Grimoire will do. As Grimoire tries to escape, a barrier blocks him and he can't pass through. He was surprised by what Lloyd did. He really wanted to get out of the underground library since he didn't have any chance of defeating the little prince. The barriers of Lloyd were cast to the whole underground library, thinking that the castle was right above them. He needs to lock up the Mage inside in case it tries to escape. Because of that, Grimoire wonders how many barriers Lloyd cast since he doesn't have anything to do and wants to escape. Grimoire asked if Lloyd really thinks that he would run. The little prince replied no, and explained that a while ago he kind of did something really bad to the kingdom and destroyed something, so he is just making some precautions. The books and the broken things on the ground started to move with the help of Lloyd's magic power, while he was explaining to the Mage the real reason why he uses a magical barrier around the underground library or when doing a study and experiment. Grimoire got mad and asked him to quit spouting nonsense because he didn't believe the little prince. He started attacking the prince again, using his dark magic. Before the Mage unleashed another attack, Lloyd started to use Ardent Flame Fireball, which shocked Grimoire at how powerful the magic of the little prince is. Lloyd wants Grimoire to show him the Mage's defense magic, so it will be his turn to attack, and the Mage needs to defend itself. The little prince throws a powerful fireball magic towards the Mage Grimoire. As it hit the demon that was sealed inside the forbidden book, an explosion started and slowly lit up the whole thing inside the underground library. Luckily, the little princess had already cast a barrier around the underground library to contain the explosion inside the barrier. The whole barrier was swallowed by the light from Lloyd's magical attack, making everything it hit destroyed. The light slowly vanished after the huge explosion inside the barrier. Everything inside was destroyed, and a whirling tornado of fire hit every single thing inside, together with the Mage. Inside the barrier is the little prince, Lloyd, who is also inside a little barrier to protect himself from the destructive power of his attack. Grimoire, the Mage, was knocked down by the magical attack of Lloyd and now lies on the ground, seeing the little prince fly towards him. Lloyd asked Grimoire why the Mage didn't guard himself. Grimoire just asked himself what is with Lloyd, who has very powerful magic. As Grimoire gained consciousness, he was shocked to see Lloyd, the seventh prince, fixing the underground library. The bookshelves, books, walls, ceilings, and everything else are moving back to their original form. The Mage can't believe how the little prince restored everything, as if nothing had happened while floating in the sky. As the underground library restored by Lloyd, Grimoire mentioned that the little prince is amazing for restoring the room after it was turned into a fine powder, but the little prince insists that the Mage Grimoire is the one who is amazing. Out of the blue, Lloyd rushes towards Grimoire and clarifies whether Mage doesn't die for magic. Grimoire got scared and answered and agreed that the Mage doesn't die for magic, but they still feel pain. Because of that, Lloyd wonders how immortal Grimoire is. He is so excited to conduct more experiments on the Mage, who is now badly traumatized by his power. Out of nowhere, Grimoire bends his knees to bow down to Lloyd and insists that he wants to be a familiar of the seventh prince of the kingdom of Saloon. It takes time for Lloyd to process what the Mage means about being familiar, and when he realizes it, his expression gets excited, and he immediately agrees, which makes the Mage wonder why the little prince stares at him like some kind of lab rat. Since the two had already agreed, Lloyd insisted that Grimoire would stand out on his appearance and asked if the Mage could maybe transform into something smaller. Grimoire immediately agreed. The Mage Grimoire transforms into a cute horned rabbit as he agreed to transform into a smaller creature. However, in his mind, he's asking if his appearance is already fine with Lloyd and insists that if he can't win with his own power, he will make Lloyd fall in love and kill the little prince once Lloyd puts his guard down. The little prince asked the Magen to get inside his cloak as he saw that the Magen had already transformed into something smaller. Grimoire asked if it's okay for Lloyd to let him be so close by getting inside the cloak, and the little prince genuinely agreed to let him get near. Grimoire had some thoughts again, thinking that the kid in front of him was stupid because Magen can control both the heart and mind as they wish if they can get close to their target. Lloyd opened his cloak to let Grimoire in, and the Magen immediately held onto the body of Lloyd, thinking that it would be so easy for him to take over the whole body of Lloyd. The Magen tried to take over the body and mind of the little prince. However, as he takes over the body of the little prince, he can't go through because there is a huge barrier inside, as if it were very far away for him to get near. It makes him more scared and shocked by how powerful the seventh prince is. Grimoire can't believe how dense the magic that Lloyd has. He feels like he will be crushed by a magical monster, thinking that the seventh prince is not a human. The Mage Grimoire felt weak and shook because of the enormous magic power Lloyd had. It caught the attention of the seventh prince and asked what happened to the Magen, or if the Magen felt cold since it was shaking. Grimoire didn't answer, and just kept quiet about what he discovered. Because of that, Grimoire, the Magen, decided that he would obey Lloyd, the seventh prince, for the time being, since he knew that he couldn't defeat the little prince or take over the little prince's body. The next day, Lloyd is reading books in a library, and out of nowhere, a young man shows up. He insisted that he already knew that Lloyd was in the library reading a book, and he happily walked towards the seventh prince. The young man is Alberto, and Lloyd greets him. Alberto insists that Lloyd is always with the magic tomes, reading spell books or studying magic. He asked if Lloyd really liked magic, and the little prince just smiled. Grimoire asked who Alberto is. Lloyd explained that Alberto is the second prince of the Saloon Kingdom, who is skilled at both the pen and the sword, so much so that it's rumored that Alberto is in line to be the next king. Grimoire realized that Alberto is a candidate to become the king, and it seems that Alberto must be a man of worth for Lloyd to pause Lloyd's reading. However, Lloyd insists that he really doesn't care about the succession. Alberto and Lloyd went to Saloon Castle's magic shooting range together with the servants so the two princes could practice. In the practice range, Alberto started hitting the targets, and he smoothly got all the targets one by one. After one attack, he got all the targets, and most of the servants and maids admired him for hitting the bull's eye. They are not surprised but still amazed by how good Alberto is. One of the maids insists that it's already expected of Alberto to hit the farthest target. They started praising and admiring the second prince while Lloyd clapped while sitting and waiting for his turn. Because of that, Grimoire realized that the reason Lloyd stopped reading when Alberto came was that he was gunning for the magic shooting range. The seventh prince, Lloyd, insists that there aren't many chances to fire magic when living inside the castle. Lloyd added that since Alberto is expected to become the successor, his big brother has the right to use the various castle facilities, and sometimes Alberto invites Lloyd out of the blue, so it was the times that Lloyd doesn't want to miss. Lloyd also insists that he has no interest in some childish shooting game. Grimoire was clueless as to why Lloyd wants to go shooting magic if the little prince is not interested in it. Alberto tells Lloyd that it's his turn, and the little prince immediately stands up. While Lloyd is preparing to hit the targets, he explained to Grimoire that he has no interest in ever becoming king or anything of the sort, but if he stands out too much, it may affect his brother's standing. However, he's fine as long as he can do his magical research while not standing out. Still, Grimoire can't understand the point of Lloyd, not realizing that the little prince is really thinking only about magic. Grimoire was shocked when he saw that Lloyd created a spinning fireball while explaining that he would try curving the fireball to just scratch the targets. The Mage, Grimoire thinks that it's even harder than hitting the target alone. However, as part of Lloyd's experiment, he continues to unleash fireballs and curve them to just scratch the targets. It started to ricochet and scratch the target one by one. As expected, Lloyd hit all the targets by just scratching it in a curvy direction. In just one try, he perfected the thing he wanted, scratching all the targets by curving the fireball. The servants and maids smiled and clapped, but not in the way they praised the second prince, thinking that the second prince did better than Lloyd. Grimoire got pissed hearing that the servants and maids mentioned that even for the prodigious seventh prince, the trajectory is unstable, but it's so cute how the prince gets excited about it. Grimoire insists that they are all idiot because the little prince grazed all of the targets on purpose, not thinking that he just showed good control of the trajectory. Grimoire badly wants to speak up on how a magic freak the seventh prince is. Lloyd didn't care what the others would say. He whispered that adding rotation to fireballs is pretty good, and it's far easier to control it so it bends without using so much magic, plus the speed is relatively. The little prince is more focused on the experiment he conducts instead of how the others see it. However, Alberto already noticed it and just realized how good his brother is. Alberto insists that he is going to take a quick break so Lloyd can play as much as he wants. Because of that, all the maids and servants insisted on accompanying the second prince, giving Lloyd the time he wanted to conduct more experiments. Lloyd happily insisted to Grimoire that he did it. He already had an empty practice field where he could conduct his experiment because there was so much he wanted to do. Grimoire was clueless, so he asked what Lloyd wanted to do. Lloyd insisted that he wanted to try the double incantation that Grimoire had done before. It makes the Mage shocked and worried, hearing that a human wants to do a double incantation. Grimoire insists that it's impossible for Lloyd to do it, even though the seventh prince has a lot of mana and has powerful magic. He added that the double incantation requires one to use two mouths, so it's a magic unique to Mage. Lloyd already has something on his mind and smiles at Grimoire. He suddenly reaches his hand towards Grimoire, the Mage, who is so clueless about what the little prince is thinking. He started to absorb the Mage using his hand to put it in his palm. After observing Grimoire using his hand, he just stares at his hand, waiting for Grimoire to show up. Grimoire, the Mage, was so shocked by what Lloyd did, and he got mad while seeing the little prince happily insist that he did it. Grimoire asked Lloyd who would take a Mage into their own body, even if they could think too. He didn't expect that Lloyd would use him as part of an experiment like that. Lloyd just insists that by taking the Mage into his body, he now has two mouths. For Grimoire, it's reckless, but the density of Lloyd's magic power is so great that he doesn't think he could take over Lloyd's body even if he tried. After setting what he needed, Lloyd asked Grimoire to chant the Ardent Fireball spell so they could start with the experiment. Grimoire insists that he is not a Mage for nothing, and if he can feel like it, he can cast high-level magic like that. As Lloyd heard that, he insisted on doing the chant. However, as they started to chant the same spell at the same thing, something happened. Grimoire stopped chanting and felt that there was something wrong because of the powerful magic that Lloyd had. He got overwhelmed by the magic power of the seventh prince, and it looked like it was eating the whole thing of the grimoire, even though he is a Mage. The two of them were surprised and terrified because of what happened. Lloyd couldn't believe what just happened, but Grimoire immediately insisted that it's hit line, asking what just happened to him as he chanted the spell. Lloyd explained that it's an incantation roll, but for Grimoire, it's different. He feels like the magic power and mana of Lloyd will eat him. The little prince just explained to the Mage that the incantation roll is a method of shortening the required chance to conduct an incantation through the condensation of several spells into a single form. One can shorten the time of an oral activation via a shortened chant, and that's what Lloyd did. The seventh Prince Lloyd explained that he put about 100 spells into a single chant and recited it in one breath. Grimoire can't believe the spells that Lloyd did and insists that his head is gonna split. Lloyd just clarified that if Grimoire rolls all the spells up and chants them in one breath, it will be easier. However, Grimoire insists that he can't do that because the most he can do in one go is 2 to 3 at best. So Lloyd insists that if Grimoire does that, they will be there till sundown and they only have limited time. Because of that, it made Lloyd think of something, and he suddenly smiled as he devised a plan to make the experiment work. He insisted to Grimoire that he could use Grimoire's mouth to speak. The seventh prince asked Grimoire not to speak with his own mouth, because he would use it. Grimoire can't believe that Lloyd intends to incant more than 2 spells by himself. Lloyd apologized to Grimoire because he would start to use the mouth of a Mage to cast the spells and use double incantation. Lloyd started to use Ardent Fireball and Waterfall Splitting Waterball at the same time. He started chanting and gathering enough mana to create the spell. Grimoire can't believe how he, as a Mage, was used by a prince or a human to use the double incantation. In his mind, the seventh prince is using high magic. Not only that, but the prince is using it with another type of magic at the same time. He thinks that there's no way that the incantation's ending. Lloyd patiently and calmly chants the spells as the 2 separate spells are being woven together. He is so dedicated to the experiment and doesn't mind what might happen after. Grimoire feels how powerful the spell is, and he thinks that it's not a normal amount of magical swelling even for a Mage like him. In Lloyd's mind, the spells he is trying are not holding, so he is getting them multiplied by 10, then 100. Because of that, he just realized that what he was doing was the double incantation that he badly wanted to try. He got some realization that it's not entirely the whole capacity of the double incantation, but it's still very powerful. He can't hit the target anymore because the magic spell he had created is not a magic that someone can just shoot at the ground. He finished creating the powerful magical orb combined by 2 powerful magics by the use of double incantation. Lloyd didn't realize it yet, but the things around him were already being destroyed by the magic of the spell he created. The only way he can release it is through the sky, so he immediately releases the powerful magic above him, making the ground shatter and darken the sky as his magic spell lights up blinding everyone. Inside the castle, where Alberto is taking his break and the maids are serving him a tea, one of the servants asked him why he's taking such an interest in the seventh prince. Alberto asked the servants if they were all blind, as his servant replied to the question. He explained that he had grazed every single target, including the ninth target, which is the farthest one. It looked like an unstable shot, but the trajectories were all off target, and the seventh prince may have even been controlling it. Alberto added that the seventh prince, Lloyd, is a genius and may even become a great sage one day. He thinks that Lloyd will surely be of great use in the future. The servant insists that it's correct, thinking that Alberto will be the future king. He insists that Alberto will definitely take the reins of a future great sage. However, Alberto insists that the servant stop because he is simply being friendly with his younger brother, Lloyd. Alberto thinks that his brother may have pierced all the targets by that time, so they walk towards a magic shooting range to check Lloyd, because he thinks that for Lloyd, that much shouldn't be enough. They were shocked as they saw that the shooting range was already destroyed when they went back. All the targets are lying on the ground and broken already, thinking that Lloyd hit it, not knowing that Lloyd didn't hit the target. It was just caught by the powerful magic Lloyd unleashed above the sky. Everyone can't believe how the magic shooting range was destroyed in just a matter of time. They just left the seventh prince for a while, and it became a demolished area. As Alberto greeted Lloyd, the seventh prince insisted to Alberto that he did it. Alberto insisted that his younger brother is amazing, and he can't believe that Lloyd has already pierced all the targets. Lloyd just explained that he's already tired and he wants to rest for today. Alberto just let his younger brother go and insisted on taking a rest because the sun had already gone down and they had just celebrated at dinner together. The second prince happily goes to take a rest too, thinking that it's already late even though it's still morning. One of the servants noticed that it wasn't yet that late for them to go and take a rest, so he checked his watch and confirmed that it shouldn't be that dark outside because it was still afternoon. Everyone has already left the magic shooting range, and the only one left is Lloyd, the seventh prince, while in his hand is Grimoire, the Mage, who is still in shock because of what he witnessed. The stratosphere was destroyed by Lloyd and made the sky dark, even though it was a sunny afternoon. The darkness is only above the castle. The night is seeping in because of the magic spell that was created by Lloyd earlier. The seventh prince rushed to make things go back to their normal state as the servants and maids went together with Alberto. Even Lloyd got scared of what he did to the sky, which was caused by his enormous magic spell created a moment ago. The sky slowly turned back to normal, and the darkness vanished. Grimoire is also in shock after everything he saw. Even now, he still can't believe how powerful Lloyd is. The little prince sweated a lot after realizing that it was a close one. His experiment was close to turning into something bad. The next day, while Lloyd was reading, Grimoire noticed that Lloyd was reading a newspaper, and he was shocked because he thought that Lloyd had no interest in such things. The seventh prince, Lloyd, insisted that he was bored with the books because he had already read every book in the library of the castle. Grimoire was shocked that even the books in the underground library had already been read by Lloyd. The little prince insisted that he learned something good from the books in the underground library. In the newspaper, he showed something to Grimoire, who is curious about what the seventh prince is trying to check. The Mage grimoire read, then A-class adventurer party tiered dungeon was conquered, and many riches, along with magic-imbued items, were carried home. As he finished reading the newspaper, he realized why Lloyd got interested in it. Lloyd asked Grimoire to go with him and conquer a dungeon for them to get the imbued items, too. However, Grimoire stopped the little prince because there are rules inside the castle, and the prince can't just go outside without being noticed by the guards. Grimoire explained that the seventh prince can't just wander off by himself, and it means that Grimoire understands that Lloyd has been pent up since the prince has been holding off on using magic since the incident last time. In the mind of Grimoire, nobody knows what might happen if he lets Lloyd, who can throw such monstrous spells around, loose. Lloyd insists that he can make up for that with magic and tricks while getting something in his pocket. He showed an acorn to Grimoire, and he explained that he would use nature magic. Lloyd chanted a spell towards the acorn, and it suddenly shook until it popped, and something came out of it slowly. As Lloyd uses nature magic, she created a nature puppet, making the acorn turn into a human-like thing. Grimoire was so amazed by the magic used by Lloyd. Grimoire can't believe that the nature puppet looks exactly like Lloyd, and he insists that it's so amazing. Lloyd explained that it doesn't just look the same as him because he made the bark grow all over it and turn into bones and meat and skin, while emulating blood and nervous systems. Additionally, it even makes simple movements automatically. Lloyd moves, and the nature puppet mimics him. Grimoire was surprised and insisted that with such an amazing body double, Lloyd could go outside easily. Lloyd disagrees with Grimoire, explaining that if it were so easy, he would have done it long ago. He added that the main problem is Silpha, his teacher, because she always notices even the smallest thing, like Lloyd growing again by about 0.7 millimeters. The seventh prince is always guarded by Silpha, who is his personal maid and teacher. Because of that, Grimoire already understands a reason why Lloyd can't leave the castle, even though he has nature puppet magic. Lloyd mentioned that he doesn't think that he can fool Silpha with the simple dance routine that the puppet is doing, so he has a plan, and it includes Grimoire, who didn't know what the seventh prince was planning to do again. They started putting clothes on the nature puppet and the plan that Lloyd created. A shadow just left the castle, and it's so fast that it can't be seen or noticed by a simple human or guard. The seventh prince, Lloyd, happily flew away from the castle, mentioning that his great escape was a success. It's the first time that Lloyd leaves the castle on his own, and he will be traveling to a dungeon. The little prince checked his hand and called for Grimoire. He asked if the Mage could hear him. It took some time before Grimoire responded, and his right eye was closed. Grimoire insisted that he could see clearly through one eye. The Mage saw where Lloyd was going and flying because of the magic that the prince used. Lloyd asked about how it is on Grimoire's end and if everything is okay. Grimoire is inside the body of the nature puppet from earlier, and he just replied that he thinks that he has successfully become Lloyd's body double. He is combing his head while his one eye is closed and speaking with Lloyd outside the castle. The maid, seeing Grimoire inside the nature puppet of Lloyd, thinks that the seventh prince cares about his appearance and admires the nice lapel that the prince has. While Grimoire can't believe that his body was put into Lloyd's hand, his spirit was divided into the wooden doll. He added that even if Lloyd could come up with it, he thinks that a normal person will never do it just to escape the castle and look for the dungeon. While Lloyd is outside the castle, he asks Grimoire to be wary of Silpha and continue playing the part of Lloyd. Grimoire just agreed because he doesn't have any choice. However, Grimoire just realized something. He started pinching the face of the puppet, but he can do whatever he likes and didn't feel any pain. He thinks that it's just an elaborate wooden doll, and it even has magic flowing through it, but he could still do anything. Because of that, Grimoire stood up thinking of bad things since he confirmed that Lloyd is not there, so no one can get in his way and destroy the whole castle. However, Lloyd called him out of nowhere, so he immediately responded. The seventh prince, Lloyd, smiles and says that he is really glad that he got Grimoire as his familiar. He added that he is counting on Grimoire. Because of what Lloyd said, the Mage in Grimoire felt something that he had never felt a long time ago. His tears fell, and he became speechless. Lloyd asked him if everything was okay, and he just replied that it's nothing and everything is okay. Grimoire asked Lloyd to just hurry up and come back immediately. Lloyd happily agreed and burst into the forest. He suddenly stopped in the middle of the rocky forest to check the surroundings, thinking that it was good he got out of the castle, but he didn't know where any dungeons were. Grimoire insists that Lloyd really just jump a gun and did not think about where he could find dungeon. Lloyd started thinking and mentioned that if only there was someone somewhere he could ask for directions. He also thinks that he's already quite far from the castle, though, and if anyone were actually all the way out there, that would be strange in itself. Then, out of nowhere, someone caught his attention on the ground, and he immediately got closer to it. Monsters are chasing a lady. Lloyd just confirmed that the monsters are huge orcs, and they are attacking a lady running and dashing around the forest. The little prince just kept on watching and letting the lady run. However, the lady suddenly stopped and rushed towards the monster to attack. The ground shuddered as she stopped and jumped towards the monsters. With just a single blow, the monster flows. The lady is very powerful and might be using some kind of magic that caught the attention of Lloyd. The two kept watching from a distance and just letting the lady fight the orcs. In a snap, one of the orcs flew as the kick of the lady landed on the body of the orc. The eyes of the orc pop out, and its thick skin slowly gets torn by the attack. The two other orcs were surprised to see their companion flying. They are looking for the lady because, as the lady attacked one of the orcs, the lady vanished. In just a second, the two orcs were both hit by the kick of the girl, who had just dashed and blinked towards them to attack them with a powerful kick. The lady is spinning while kicking in the air and slowly lands on her feet. She slowly breaths and slowly inhales a lot of air. Together with that, a powerful magic started to appear around her hand that she uses to attack again. The magic power that she created together with her breath is so powerful that it makes the body of the orc explode as she lands it on the body of the monster. The word on the cloth of the girl says martial or martial arts. The lady just uses a magic that has something to do with martial arts combat. The powerful attack created a huge explosion and made dust all over the ground. The seventh Prince Lloyd was so amazed by how powerful the martial artist was because that was the first time he had seen one. He also noticed the breath of the martial artist used because he found it amazing. He just remembered that he read in a book that in foreign countries there is a technique called ki, which allows one to circulate one's breath inside their body, which then allows them to harness extraordinary power. Lloyd got interested in the ki that the lady used to fight the orcs. He wonders what he could do with ki once he started using it. Meanwhile, the lady who fights the orcs is the rank B adventurer martial artist, Tao. She insisted that the orcs are 100 years too soon to beat her. As Tao defeated the orcs, she was still using ki, so he easily detected Lloyd, who was hiding over the mountain. Tao shouted at Lloyd, asking who the person was hiding over the rocks. The seventh prince, Lloyd, was so surprised that they were detected by Tao from that distance, even though they were hiding their presence and mana. Since Tao had already noticed Lloyd, he asked Grimoire if he should give Tao a break and show himself to the lady. He added that he wants to ask about dungeons and the key that Tao used fighting the orcs. The Mage and Grimoire stopped Lloyd and asked the prince to think first. Grimoire explained that if Lloyd reveals his true self, looking like the seventh prince, Tao might recognize Lloyd as the prince of the saloon. Lloyd just realized that Grimoire was correct, so he agreed. However, since they continued talking to each other, they didn't provide any response to Tao, which bothered the lady. Tao thinks that Lloyd must be an enemy since she already asked and didn't reply to her. Lloyd panicked and didn't know what to do or what to say to the lady who was now approaching them. He doesn't have a plan and is just hiding on a rock. In the blink of an eye, Tao jumped and immediately appeared behind Lloyd. As Tao, the lady using ki, reached the location where Lloyd was, she was shocked to see a new adventurer. The adventurer slowly walked up and introduced himself to Tao, greeting the lady. His name is Roberto, a new adventurer with a handsome face that makes Tao's face turn red. The new adventurer, named Alberto, is actually the seventh prince, Lloyd. He uses copy form illusion magic, since transformation magic is limited to forms he has seen before. If he were to transform into Alberto, the second prince, it might come back to bite him, so he used double incantation which he learned from Grimoire. He takes his own face in his left hand, then Alberto's face in his right hand, and by mixing both their forms, he can create an original body and become unrecognizable, which he then turns into Roberto's new appearance. After Lloyd successfully introduced himself as Roberto, Tao introduced herself formally and explained that she is a B-rank adventurer and she is a martial artist while looking at the other way. Because of that, Lloyd is thinking whether the lady is suspicious, even though his copy is perfect. The little prince is getting nervous because he might fail at hiding his true identity if Tao gets suspicious. However, in Tao's mind, she is thinking how handsome Roberto is and not suspecting anything. She's thinking that after 18 years of commitment to training, she finally ran away from her dojo to become an adventurer so she could meet someone, but all the men always go for weak, monk-like girls, and she thinks that spring has finally come for someone as unpopular as her. She decided that she would definitely make Roberto her boyfriend. Lloyd, in the form of Roberto, insists that he was thinking of asking Tao to conquer a dungeon with him, but it looks like Tao is busy, so he will just go and ask someone. However, before Lloyd got away, Tao stopped him and insisted on leaving everything to her. Starting that day, Tao, the martial artist, joined Lloyd's party. Tao's main goal is to finally get to flirt with a handsome guy like Roberto. After miles of walking, they reached a nameless dungeon with a recommended difficulty of B rank. As they enter the dungeon, they encounter a lot of monsters, and all of those monsters are defeated by Tao easily using ki, a technique that uses breathing. With the help of breathing properly or inhaling and exhaling slowly, Tao unleashed extraordinary powers that could easily defeat any kind of monster below her rank. Orcs, goblins, and other small monsters were wiped out by Tao. The martial artist Tao kept on showing off her skills, asking if Roberto had already fallen for her, But Roberto, or the seventh prince, Lloyd, is not even looking and is more interested in the shiny stones that he wants for his experiment. Tao was shocked that she was less important than a pebble to Roberto. Since Lloyd noticed that Tao was feeling bad about how he responded, he insisted that he was paying attention and praised Tao for being amazing. He also asked if Tao is a solo adventurer. Tao replied that she is solo and couldn't find any decent men adventurer friends, so Lloyd asked if he was decent for Tao. Then they just continue walking. After fighting monsters and collecting stones or magic crystals, they decided to take a rest inside the dungeon. Lloyd asked Tao about the key that Tao used when attacking. The lady was shocked that Lloyd was aware of the key. She added that it's so rare for people from their continent to know about it. Lloyd thinks that it's like a magic power in sorcery, and the way Tao breathes is important somehow. Tao happily insists that saying all of what Lloyd notices is an achievement for a person not using ki. Tao explained that ki training starts and ends with breathing. The ki user sends ki around his or her body using breath, then a mysterious power will burst forth. She added that Lloyd needs quite a bit of training just to feel the ki within his body, but it should be easier for Lloyd to make use of Tao's flow. Lloyd didn't hear what Tao said and just tried breathing like Tao did before. He is imitating the way of Tao's breathing. He started inhaling air, and energy started to flow through his body. However, as he inhaled a lot of air, his lungs couldn't hold it, and his lungs snapped. Lloyd felt the sharp pain in his chest as he tried using the ki for the first time. Lloyd continues coughing because of too much air that he inhales. Tao was shocked that Lloyd, in the form of Roberto, tried to use ki without any training. Lloyd happily insists that he just tried to imitate what he saw Tao doing earlier and realized that it's pretty hard. Tao got excited as she heard that Roberto imitated what she had done, but she insisted that Roberto couldn't do that because it requires training and practice. She added that if Roberto tries to use ki before Roberto was used to it, Roberto's lungs will feel like they've caught fire. Lloyd immediately understood what Tao was explaining and stopped listening to practice ki again. In Lloyd's mind, he is sure that he felt it within his body, and some type of energy different from magic is getting into him, thinking that he can use that power and he can combine it to make more powerful magic. Lloyd is thinking about magic and how he will improve his magic with the help of the ki that he is trying to learn from Tao. Since Tao realized that Roberto had really decided to learn ki, she realized that Roberto's curiosity couldn't be helped, so she would teach Roberto more about ki. Roberto is so happy that Tao agreed to teach him more about ki. Tao asked Roberto not to let his breath stop before they get out of the dungeon. Roberto needs to practice the way he breathes and get used to it so he can naturally use ki. Grimoire, on the other hand, is happy because he keeps getting surprised and excited by how strange Lloyd is. He just realized that even though Lloyd is so powerful and has such a relaxed life, Lloyd still isn't interested in anything because all that Lloyd does is explore magic. The seventh prince, Lloyd, is always like that, and Grimoire is sure that people will soon gather around him. While Grimoire is happily listening to Tao and Lloyd's conversation about ki, Silpha came out looking for him, since he is inside Lloyd's nature puppet. Silpha happily smiled at him as the lady finally found him because Silpha was so excited for their training. Back in the dungeon, Tao uses ki to produce explosive magic without chanting. By just breathing, Tao uses ki and immediately unleashes a powerful attack that defeats a monster. She explained to Lloyd in the form of Roberto that what she just used is called a ki bullet. After defeating all the monsters along their way to the center of the dungeon, they reached where the treasure is. They just think that the last monster they defeated was the boss of the dungeon, the Gray Wolf, so now the treasure chest will open for them. Everything is new for Lloyd, so he was excited and surprised. Tao explained that the treasure in front of them is immature, but it can only be so good. Because of what she said, Lloyd was surprised, asking if dungeons grow and the treasure matures. Lloyd continues asking what the dungeon is, and if the treasure chest doesn't open until the boss is defeated. As they get near the treasure, Lloyd notices the weird interior of the treasure, which makes him more excited and interested. Tao insists that Roberto seems more interested in the outside of the treasure box than the inside. Roberto agreed that he is so interested in the outside of the treasure box, but he wants to know what's inside too. While they are observing and checking the treasure box, Tao just realized that Roberto is able to use ki breathing in such a short amount of time and started practicing it. Tao thinks that she has finally found a keeper that is good for her. She also thinks that at that moment, if she can start some sort of master-disciple love relationship, then even her annoying old man would acknowledge their betrothal. Again, Lloyd is not listening or thinking about what Tao feels. He insists on opening the treasure chest since he is so excited about it. Tao agreed to open the treasure chest. They started opening it, even though Tao insisted that she was sure that there was nothing significant inside the chest. The chest slowly opens, and as it opens, something is coming out. There's some dark magic that Lloyd immediately noticed by Lloyd. As the treasure chest opened, a dark blade was unleashed from it. The dark magic and the blade that tried to cut Tao came out of the chest. Luckily, Lloyd saw it and immediately pulled Tao to dodge it. Tao was saved by Lloyd, and they are both surprised to see that a shadow appears from the chest, slowly moving out below the chest, and it's forming something. The shadow slowly turns into a bone monster trying to stand up. As the monster successfully seeps out of the treasure chest, it's a bone monster with dark shadow that looks like a very powerful one. The dungeon's boss monster. What will happen to Tao and Lloyd? Can they defeat the dungeon's boss? Can Lloyd go back to the castle safely? Follow for more episodes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.